About the draft. I mean, maybe I'll answer your question with a quick counter question. What do you think would happen if to these 18 to 26 year olds? Because here's my opinion. I mean, I don't mean to insult anybody, but I'm going to. We don't have patriotic American kids anymore. We have kids that are very self-centered, kids that are very about comfort, creature comfort. We don't have kids that sign up to sacrifice for their country. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That was the statement that motivated my generation. I grew up saying, I must serve my country.
We want the country to serve us now.
That's right. It's a one-way sign that says, me, 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 which isn't bad. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'd love to live in a country that you didn't have to worry about going to war in defense of. And if you did have to go to war, it would be because somebody actually threatened you and you needed to defend yourself. But to fight in these forever wars that America's involved in, when we are definitely the bad guys, we're not the good guys at any of the fights we're involved in, to motivate this generation to do it involuntarily, I don't think it can be done. I don't think you can institute a draft and have it function. I just don't see it happening. I see the streets full of angry young people who are saying, hell no, we won't go. And then what does America do? Go police state on them, martial law, forceful conscription. We become an extension of Ukraine. We bonk people on the head, throw them in vans, take them in, give them 2 weeks training, put a uniform on them, send them to the front lines. That'll lead to a civil war. I often tell people, to answer this question, you need to go back and take a look at what happened during the Vietnam War, which prompted us to move away from a draft military, conscription military, to an all-volunteer force, because the drafting Americans to fight an unpopular war turned out to be the sowing the seeds of the destruction of America. We would have fallen apart as a society. So we transitioned, and there's a general, Creighton Abrams, I think his name was, who oversaw the transition to a volunteer force. And how hard that was. I enlisted in the United States Army in 1979. At the still the end of the Vietnam War era. The Vietnam War didn't stop. We didn't stop having American troops dying until 1975. The last vestige of the Vietnam War was fought actually on a tiny island called Koh Tang Island off the coast of Cambodia, where the USS Mayaguez was seized by Khmer Rouge, and we sent Marines in to rescue them, and lost a lot of Marines. 1975. I enlisted in 1979. We still had people that were part of what they called McNamara's 100,000. Because the draft was so unpopular, we lowered the intellectual standards to get into the military. And we were letting in people who weren't intellectually capable of serving in the military, join the military. They were still in the Army. Racism, the racism that existed in the 60s and 70s was manifest. When I went to basic training, I was some dumb, stupid kid that came off of a U.S. Air Force base in Germany where, the military had, I played football on a team where my running back was a black man, but I didn't view him as a black man. I just viewed him as my teammate. I said, "You're my teammate. You're not black. I'm not white. We're teammates." And we acted like teammates. And I got to the Army training camp, and there were black tables, white tables, Puerto Rican tables. And don't sit at the black table. You won't live. Don't go to the Puerto Rican table. You won't live. You got to sit with the white table. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? This isn't America. Well, actually it was. I lived in a little fantasy world, and the real America was this horribly racist, divided society. And then the other problem that happened is they were all smoking dope in basic training. I'm like, how the hell? I didn't even know what dope was. And they're like sitting there going, want some? No, I don't smoke. Oh, you want this? I don't want this. Really, I don't. It was fundamentally broken, but that was part of the transition. It took us until about the mid 1980s to purge our military of this taint of the draft system to get an all volunteer system, which was largely comprised of motivated people who wanted to be all they could be, people who knew they were never promised a rose garden. I'm giving you two recruiting themes from the time. I joined a Marine Corps that said if everybody could be a Marine, there wouldn't be Marines. It wasn't about yellow cards, time out, make it easy. It was, if you want to be a Marine, we're going to kick the hell out of you. We're going to blow your brains out. We're going to beat you up. You think you got what it takes? Yeah, I got what it takes. Well, come on. And it became this challenge. You're going to break me. You ain't breaking me. I'm a Marine. Oh. And then I'm surrounded by guys who think the same way. That's what made us dangerous, is that we were motivated to do this. We volunteered to do this. That system doesn't exist today. It can't. In Marine training, they're not allowed to do the shark attack anymore. Shark attack, everybody who's been in the Marines know the yellow footsteps. You get off the bus, and then the DIs come in, and they come at you. Ah! The idea is to break you down, to turn you into jelly, and then build you back up into a Marine. Not allowed to do that today. Now they're allowed to pull out a yellow card. Time out. Time out. There ain't no timeout in war. But there is a timeout in basic training. And safe zones, now DIs have to sit down and talk with them and communicate with them and bond with them. And this, and so we're creating, even in the military we have, this military is incapable of waging the kind of war that's necessary, but it's still an all-volunteer force. Try now recruiting people that don't want to be there. Not just that, one of the reasons why we can't recruit people, so, and again, they're fat. I don't mean to pick on American society today.
You said they're fat.
They're fat. They're out of shape. They're obese. They don't exercise. They don't have the stamina. They don't have what it takes to do it. So we have to dumb down the entire system to let even these people that are joined today. The people that joined today, 80% of them could not have joined in the 1980s. They would have been disqualified physically. If they joined, they would have said, "You're fat. Leave." We had a fat platoon in the Marine Corps. The shark attack. The guy knows what I'm talking about. But we had a fat platoon. If you went in and you were, marginal on weight, when I say fat, you're not really that fat. Today, they'd be called fit. What we called fat back then would be called fit today. But the fat boys were put in a motivation platoon, and they motivated them by trying to kill them. And if you had what it took, you dropped the weight, and you'd accomplish the physical tasks, and they bring you back, and you could finish the training cycle. If you didn't, you were cycled out, sent home. Today, they had to change. They have to change all of the training because we have fat kids that come in, and they can't do it. They can't do it. They can't do it. We're a fluffy nation. It's more than fluffy, man. Fluffy is we're jelly bean. We're marshmallow people. And so now you want to draft marshmallows into a system that is supposed to turn them into hardened steel and involuntarily. Everybody today wants this. They want to be on their phone. They want to be tech. What job do people want? Nobody says, I want the job that requires me to get up at 5:30 in the morning, go out and sweat my butt off, doing hard labor. That's what we have Mexicans for. Sorry, didn't mean to go there, but that's what the Mexicans are for. Bring them over illegally, make them do that stuff. We don't talk about it. Go to the hotel. Don't pretend you don't see who's making your bed in the morning. The little brown ladies who speak a foreign language, don't pretend they exist because you don't want to ask the question, how much money do you make? Do you pay taxes? Are you here legally? Are you being abused by your employers? Do you have the rights and privileges of Americans? We don't want to ask that question. The people that do the hard work of America today mostly are non-Americans. And again, there's some, we got the old school guys, the steel workers, the iron workers. We got some workers out there that do stuff, but they're getting old. Where are the kids that want to come up and do that? How many kids want to graduate high school and go to welding school? You know who goes to welding school? A handful of well-meaning people, but people who can't get a job anywhere else. So they're compelled to do it. But ideally, you'd like to be sitting right where I'm at, behind a computer screen, getting soft. And type in, and not even typing, because that's work. That requires thinking. You don't type. You want to click, 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 click. Oh, a phone call. Hi, yes, I have a brilliant idea. Yes, I think if we moved the color magenta over slightly and made it a little pink, that we could do something. Oh, brilliant idea. Now pay me $20,000. Thank you very much. That's it. That's all Americans want to do today. They want to do service things. They want to, they're soft. Now we come back to the draft. War is a hard business. War is the hardest business in the world because not only do you have to harden your body to survive, because if you don't, understand, you die. That's one of the problems with a soft military is we're guaranteeing with a soft military, we can't kill the enemy as efficiently as one. I'm sorry, Sabrina. I mean, I don't mean to be blunt here, but that's what war is about. I hope people understand the military is not there to hold hands and sing kumbaya. We're not there to be a reflection of American society. America may be about transgendered rights. The military cannot be about transgendered rights. Why, Scott? Because you're disruptive of the team concept, where the team has to work together in unity to accomplish the most difficult mission in the world, which is to close with and destroy the enemy through firepower maneuver. And if we screw up any aspect of this mission, we die. I don't want to die. I don't want you to die. And when you soften my brain by bringing in social issues that are so complex that even society can't handle it, admit that. We have to admit that. I'm not saying right or wrong on transgenderism. What I'm saying is, even as a society and civilian society, with all the things, we can't handle it. We can't have a debate about it. We can't. And now you're going to put it in a military environment. All you're doing is disrupting discipline, unity, focus. The same thing with gay rights. I don't care what your sexuality is. I really don't. Fact is, I'll defend your right to be whatever the hell you want to be, anytime you want to be it. All power to you. But in the military, you can't have sexual tension. You can't, because you're thinking about something other than killing the bad guy. The military is this singular entity coming together to kill. And the second you soften it by saying, no, we're going to be like society, you lose the ability to kill the enemy, and you make yourself more susceptible to being killed by the enemy. And this is just the reality of it. And maybe that's the price we have to pay as a democracy to exist as a democracy. Maybe we have to accept a military that isn't as efficient as it needs to be, both in terms of killing and surviving. That's a decision society gets to make. But there are ultimately compromises that have to be made within the military to function as a military. Even in our suppressed capability fashion today, we still have to do certain things. You still have to get up in the morning, maybe not run as far as you used to. Maybe you don't run in boots anymore. Oh, God, imagine that. We're only going to run in tennis shoes. Why? Because we go to war in boots. Wait a minute. If we go to war in boots, why do we run in tennis shoes? Well, we don't want to give you shin splints. But if we run in boots in war, do we get shin splints? Yeah, but that's war. This is peacetime. That's the whole thing. You can't draft. This is a long way of saying this draft will never work. One, even if it did work, we'd lose because we're drafting softies into a hard business. And two, as much as I make fun of today's youth and their softness, they have made a decision that they aren't the tools of the establishment. And they're even if they were hard, they'd say, we're not going to do this. We're not going to fight your war. Could you imagine trying to draft people? Let's say Hezbollah goes to war against Israel today and Israel's getting beat. America says, we got to go in, but we can't go in with troops because we don't have enough troops. We need to draft. All those kids that are in the camps right now, camping out or in colleges and opposing this, you think there's something you go, oh, well, screw it. They drafted me. I'm going. We're going to kill Hamas. We're going to go kill Hezbollah. We're going to fight on behalf of Israel. It's okay because I've been drafted. No, the demonstrations they've done against Israeli genocide will become a demonstration against them being drafted to facilitate. How many kids want to be drafted to go die in Ukraine?
Right.
No one. So it's not going to work. It's a stupid law passed by a stupid Congress, which is so disconnected from the reality of America. It's unbelievable. You can't fix a broken military by making it more broke. This is like taking an engine. I got an engine and, I'm not an auto mechanic. I'm just making stuff up right now. Got an engine that sounds bad. How am I going to fix it? Pour sand in the engine. That ain't going to work. You're going to break the engine. The draft is pouring sand into the military engine. It just isn't going to work.
This is not to mention, too, after the Vietnam War, remember how those soldiers were treated when they came back to the United States, right? Like they were called baby killers and some other things. Some of those soldiers ended up, they struggled to find work because they were a part of the Vietnam War. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but some of the soldiers that came back from the Vietnam War, they struggled to find jobs because they were seen as, the baby killers. So what happened? Some of those soldiers turned to drug. Watch Rambo. That's what Rambo is about for people who are not aware. Sylvester Stallone's character Rambo, that's what that is about. He is a soldier that returns to the U.S. after being, in the war in Vietnam, and he reacts the way that he does because of the treatment and some of the psychological warfare that he had to deal with as well. So his anger that you see in the character Rambo, that is due to the way that he was treated when he came back to the U.S. and some of the things that he saw when he was in the war in Vietnam.
Yep. I mean, Bruce Springsteen, I don't know what you think about Bruce Springsteen. I love him as a musician. Some people do, but don't like his politics. I'm leaving the politics out. But he wrote a song called Brothers Under the Bridge. And it describes this situation about a Vietnam War veteran returning, trying to assimilate back into life. And he talks about how he was there with his wife. And they were at a parade, and 1 minute you're right there, and then he had to leave. He couldn't handle it, and he ends up living under a bridge with the other Vietnam veterans, segregated from society, because that was the only thing that made sense to him. And that's a reality. America, the Vietnam War generation is aging out. They're getting old, but there was a secret in America that nobody wanted to talk about, which was the brothers under the bridge, the brothers in the woods, the brothers in the alleys, the tens of thousands of Vietnam War veterans who were unable to assimilate back into society, and how they lived in these clusters of people that couldn't go back. They had families, they had wives, they had children, but they couldn't go back to them because they were fundamentally broken by the war. They exist today too, by the way, Sabrina. What we did in the 20 years that we fought in Afghanistan and Iraq has destroyed several generations of American youth. Yes, the death count wasn't as high as Vietnam. Yes, the death count wasn't as high as World War II or Korea. We broke so many Americans in Afghanistan, in Iraq. These are kids, and a lot of the injuries that happen over there. You have the explosive, the IEDs, improvised explosive bombs that blow up and flip over the Humvee, and you live. I'm alive, but your spine's a little hurt. You got a little hurt there, and I got a headache. I got this concussion, but they put you back, and then it happened again, and it hurt. And now you're getting ready to come out. You're like, Doc, my head hurts, man. My head hurts. Here's some aspirin. But I got this here. I'm going to write you this prescription, oxycodone. I'm going to give you some oxy. And wow, Doc, the pain went away. Thank you, Doc. And we're going to give you this other drug that's going to help with your brain a little bit. Oh, I'm sort of psychedelic right now. I'm feeling good and no pain. Thank you, Doc. And I'm going back to America now. And I'm confused, though, because I've spent so much time over there where it's not here. And I was with a team, and nobody wants to be my teammate anymore because they view me as something bad. Oh, my back hurts. Doc, I need more medicine. No, you don't get medicine anymore. Doc, my back hurts. No, guy on the street. You need some oxy? Yeah, it's going to cost you. Can't afford oxy anymore. Other guy, heroin's the same thing, baby. Heroin's the same. Oh, really? Heroin. Now you got a guy who's a heroin addict who was a good guy or gal. This happens to women too. They were good. Whether you agree with it or not, they at one point in time said, I'm going to raise my hand and take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution and to serve my country. They may have believed in the cause when they went over there. They may have become, but at one point in time, these were people who were willing to sacrifice everything in support of something. And now society has rejected them because of their service. The service, and imagine what that does to you psychologically. The same thing happened to the Vietnam War veterans. They went over there thinking they were doing one thing, found out it was another, came back, and society rejected and condemned them for this thing. The same thing today. How many yellow stickers do you see on the back of cars, Sabrina? Support our troops. Support our troops. How many people in those? But they used to be prevalent. They used to be out there all the time. Everybody had them. But I always would say, really, did you go to the VA? Were you there holding the hands of the kid that he's 24-year-old now, paralyzed, and he poops into a colostomy bag? Do you hold his hand while it gets changed, while the nurse bathes him down? His family's rejected him. He was a guy who proposed to a beautiful young girl before he went to war, and she took the ring. And maybe he came home on leave and got her pregnant. She has the baby, but now he came home and he's ugly and he's disfigured and he's this thing. And she couldn't live. She went off and left him. And now his family's because it's too inconvenient. It's Memorial Day, damn it. I'm supposed to be drinking a beer, going to a parade. I'm not going to the VA hospital to smell your stinking colostomy bag. You become inconvenient to me. And so they forget about them and they're abandoned by society. There are so many American today, veterans who serve their country, who have been abandoned by society. They are broken people. War breaks people. War breaks people. All these people saying, well, I believe in the draft. The hell you do. Why do you want to break American kids? Why do you want to break them? Because that's all that's happening. People come to me and say, Scott, should I join the military? Should my kid? I'm saying, I can't make that decision for you. but war will break you. If you go to war, you will be fundamentally broken. I'm broken. I'm broken. I'm not as broken as others, thank God, but I'm forever changed by the experience. And there's some people that, who can handle the change. I think I've coped fairly well. There's other people who can't handle the change. I am blessed by friends and family who put up with my nonsense. And so, and it leads to healing. But there's other people who don't. They get rejected because they manifest differently. And to be frank, most people, they don't understand what's happening to you. And it's hard for somebody who's been through it to talk to somebody who hasn't been through it. I mean, the dumbest conversation in the world at a bar. Kill anybody? Ask the question again. We'll get an answer like you. The stupidity of America about war, about warriors, about what happened is manifest. We live in a world where we allow combat to be defined by computer games. I don't know how many people play Call of Duty or Medal of Honor, Fortnite. It's all. Look, I became addicted to Fortnite. I'm just being honest. I played it, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "This is fun. Holy shit, I get to run around and kill things. And oh God, look, oh God, oh, it's addictive." Until I realized that I just spent my whole day living out my worst nightmare. And I was not productive, and I didn't accomplish anything except make myself sink further and further and further into that cave that you don't want to sink into. So I don't play Fortnite anymore. I don't condemn people who do play it, but I'm just saying that life ain't that. You don't get to dance after you kill somebody, and you don't get to reset and all that stuff. You're dead, or you're wounded, or you're fundamentally broken. We have to stop worshiping war. And we have to stop worshiping wars, and we have to stop thinking that violence is the answer, and we have to start appreciating the costs. I think if we spent more time caring for the broken Americans from our past wars, we would be less inclined to allow future wars to occur.
I agree. And I come from a military family as well. So I'm very much familiar how the VA, I feel, has abandoned a lot of those soldiers. And I don't know if all of you watching have ever been to the VA, but all you got to do is just walk in there once and you can see it's a mess. It's a madhouse. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of red tape.
You can smell it as soon as you come in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different smell.
It's very different. One thing I will say, there was an article recently that said a lot of younger kids are choosing to forego college and go into the trade. So this is changing. They're choosing to go into more blue collar fields, which I think is great. We do need more of that. We need construction.
College have something to do with that.
Yeah, it's one of those things too, that when you get a house, you may not realize it, but when you get a house, then you're like, oh shoot, we got a plumbing issue. Who do I call? What do I do? You need plumbers. You need electricians. Lived in apartments for years. So
you sound like my wife, because she's like, "What do you do?" Hey, I'm a former Marine. Yeah, but what does that mean? Honey, I serve my country. Yeah, but the plumbing's broken. Can you fix the plumbing? Of course not. I can negotiate with a plumber, but I can't. And she makes fun of me because she's like, "You're useless. You're literally the most useless man in the world, because when things break around the house, you don't know how to fix it because you don't have a trade." And for a while, I was sort of insulted by that because I'm a history major. History major. How how much plumbing can I fix with a history degree? None. But she's right. The more because I'm a homeowner, and we bought a house now. The house is now approaching, it's a 45 years old house. Things are breaking. And I'm realizing that A, I don't know how to fix it. And B, I have to hire somebody to fix it. And C, that costs me a lot of money. And D, maybe if I had taken the time to learn how to do this stuff, I could fix it myself. So I think it's great that people are getting a trade out there, especially today. A college degree isn't what it used to be. They've made it mandatory to get these jobs out there. But if you have to go in debt $160,000 to get a college degree, and then come out in a job that's paying you, I don't know, let's say you make 80 grand a year, but you got to pay taxes, and you got to pay rent, and then you got to pay back the college thing, and you can't save any money because life's expensive. It's getting more expensive. And that's a trap. It becomes this debt trap that defines your life. Or you can sit there and go, if I'm a plumber, A, it only costs me a little bit to become a plumber. B, everybody's paying me money to be a plumber. I got guaranteed income. I can buy my own house. I can buy my own car. I can have a savings account. I can go on vacations. Being a plumber is the greatest job in the world because you're self-sufficient, you're self-employed, and you're able to live. It's a hell of a lot better than being an accountant with a major accounting firm, because those kids that are accountants there, they're in a debt trap. Same thing with lawyers. I've talked to a lot of lawyers, and I'm like, law degree, and they're like, worst mistake I ever made. Worst mistake I ever made.
Hence why I did not go to law school, because I would have ended up in much, much more debt.